Inside PressBox is presented by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Go to Freedmont.com now for all of your mortgage needs. And welcome to yet another edition of Inside PressBox. I'm your host, Stan the Fan Charles, with the free agent signing period about to begin and the NFL Combine just ending. PressBox Ravens beat reporter Joe Platania will be with me later to talk Ravens. But first, the men's lacrosse season has started, but the real face-off of the season will be at M&T Bank Stadium next Saturday, March the 10th, at the Minolta Face-Off Classic. And who better to talk with about this event than with Andy Bilello, Director of Business Development for Inside Lacrosse. I got confused there. We're inside. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, your fancy title there, Director of Business Development for Inside Lacrosse. What does that mean, that you just get to come up with these cool new events each year? Because we'll talk a little bit about the increase in events.
It means I get involved with anything that my boss decides I should be involved with. And it's getting involved with projects that aren't in the traditional publishing side of the business that can hopefully expand how we get content and experiences to lacrosse fans.
And revenue, of course.
Well,
but, I mean, you
yeah,
know,
in the
listen,
end, we are a for-profit entity, and we're trying to do it in a way that we can expand the appreciation and passion for the sport while also improving our business.
And no question about it. Now, you mentioned to me off the air as we were starting, you did not partake inside lacrosse specifically with the event in Jacksonville, but you have this event coming up here, and we'll talk more in detail, on March 10th. Then on April Fool's Day, April 1st, there's a triple header up at the Meadowlands, now MetLife Stadium,
Correct.
The new Giants and Jets facility. And then you said, what, in May, there's another event?
Then we're hosting a similar event in Denver at Sports Authority Field at the end of April, April 27th. It's a Friday night where we'll have Virginia playing Penn and Duke playing Denver, and it's 3 of the 4 teams that were in the Final Four last year in Baltimore for the championship in May.
That's pretty impressive stuff. Now, speaking of impressive stuff, with this event coming up, the Minolta Face-Off Classic at M&T Bank Stadium, March 10th, turns out you've got the #1 team in the country, UVA, the #2 team in the country, Johns Hopkins. They don't face each other, but UVA faces the #3 team in the country in Cornell, and you also have the #4 team in the country in UNC.
Yeah,
did you just get lucky, or do you try and pick it that way?
Well, we try and pick teams that, in our best, sense of the sport, are going to be very good. And honestly, sometimes it's not that hard. The sport is growing, interest is growing in it, but still there's a relatively few teams that tend to stay in the top 10 consistently. And if we can get top 10 matchups, we feel like it's probably going to deliver something pretty special for the audience.
Now, one of the most interesting things about lacrosse, it's been around forever, but all of a sudden you've got Penn State gets more involved in it, Ohio State, now Michigan, Denver a couple of years ago, and in fact Denver in the Final Four last year, Jacksonville, now not that it's, but the geography of the game is expanding tremendously and rapidly.
Well, it's an exciting sport, and I believe as the NCAA championship has gained greater exposure, moving to NFL stadiums, which started in Baltimore in 2003 at M&T Bank Stadium, there's a lot of athletic directors and university presidents that see this is another sport that we can gain exposure, we can create some excitement on our own campus, and if we invest in it, it's going to bring what we want out of athletics back to our school and to our campus community.
Now, not to be sort of crass about this, but the way we were talking about you with Director of Business Development, do athletic directors see, fairly amount of wealthy kids, that might come to our school? We may get 40 more wealthy kids that come to school.
Well, I don't know how much of it is about the demographics of the sport, but certainly some of the schools that are adding the sport or increasing their commitment to it are schools that don't have scholarship football often. And it's a way to attract men to their student bodies. I know, especially like Furman just announced that they're adding the sport. I know that was part of the reasoning at Jacksonville. Bellarmine in Kentucky None of them have scholarship football, but they want to be able to attract students from the Northeast and keep up, their male population of their student body. And I think that combined with the increased exposure of the sport and the perception that it's an exciting thing that a lot of people will get involved in on campus at a game, kind of is a good fit for them.
Tell us how folks can get tickets to this event, the Minolta Face-Off Classic.
Well, the easiest thing to do is either call the Baltimore Ravens box office at 410-261-RAVE, or just go to faceoffclassic.com, and that'll give you all the information regarding the game lineups, times, and direct you to Ticketmaster to buy tickets.
All right. Tell me briefly about the event up in the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium, because a lot of Baltimore people will be interested to know that Hopkins is in a great matchup that day.
Well, it's the 4th year of the Big City Classic, which is also sponsored by Minolta. And we have a triple header there. We felt we were in the shadow of New York City. We wanted to expose the sport there, and we wanted to make it as big as we could. So that's where we started the triple header concept. So we start that day with Notre Dame playing St. John's at 1 o'clock, which is a Big East matchup, and Notre Dame has been in the championship game as a top 10 team themselves. Then we have Duke playing Syracuse at 4 p.m. Those two programs had not played each other in a regular season for 20 years before we helped set up that matchup last year, but now they're going to be brethren in the ACC going forward. And then we have Hopkins playing Carolina at 6:30 p.m. as the nightcap, and we felt that North Carolina and Hopkins would both be teams that should be major national championship contenders this year. So that could easily be a number 1 versus 2 or another 2 versus 4 matchup a month from now.
All right. When we return with Andy Bilello of Inside Lacrosse, I want to talk to you about some interesting ideas you have as to some things that have helped increase the specter of the sport around the country. Okay. All right. We're going to continue, and we'll talk more with Andrew right after this. We'll take a look at, we'll take a look at the photo of the week also when we return. So don't go away. Maroon PR is the leading sports and entertainment PR and marketing firm in the region. Now more than ever, they're a full-service firm that can handle all of your public relations, branding, and marketing needs. Visit maroonpr.com to learn more.